Great to have you with us. Now, it has emerged that the Bank of Ghana granted Capital Bank a license to operate without checking if they had sufficient capital to do so. A report on a probe commissioned by the central bank reveals the shareholders of the now defunct Capital Bank showed no proof of the existence of capital when they were upgrading from a savings and loans institution to a universal bank. The report, however, reveals the BOG granted them the license to operate without checking and subsequently bailed them out when the local bank was unable to sustain its operations because they lacked funds. Now, before we bring you these new details, here are excerpts of the report we brought you earlier. So in this part of the report, it details what happened with UT Bank. As you can see there, a loan defaulting entity, that is Kofi Jobs Limited, made two payments totaling 5 million Ghana cedis to PK Amoabing, former CEO and director. Now, these payments were never disclosed to the board of the company. Also, there was intergroup lending involving other subsidiaries of the holding company UT Holdings, totaling 71.6 million Ghana cedis and $14.3 million US dollars. And that's not all. UT Bank made a number of loans to connected parties, 84.1 million US Ghana cedis to Quincy Sintim and related companies, 10.9 million Ghana cedis and $5 million US dollars to Beige Group and related companies. Now, Beige Group and related companies loaned the $5 million US dollars from UT to Ibrahim Mahama and related companies. Now, the interesting bit there is that UT Bank itself loaned 261.6 million Ghana cedis and 1.4 million US dollars directly to Ibrahim Mahama and related companies. So the money sort of went directly from UT to Mr. Mahama and through Beige Bank to Mr. Mahama. That is, however, not all it says about the banking sector. Here's what the document and the report says about the formation of Capital Bank. Right, so you have on your screen the findings of the committee, and I'll take you to the second point there. It says that 7 new shareholders collectively owned 9.1 million. However, this amount increased to 52.3 million Ghana cedis in investments, a difference of 43.2 million. Even the source and existence of these funds was not confirmed by the BSD. Now, the BSD, per 3.1.2.7 above, requested the promoters, that is the shareholders of Capital Bank, to put the difference in minimum capital required into an escrow account to be verified by BOG. It is important to note that this was not done. The difference in minimum capital was not put in the escrow account. Right, so let's move on to the phone lines now, and we shall speak to Dr. Richmond Etiahene. He is a governance expert. Good afternoon, sir, and
good afternoon,
welcome.
Sir, my brother.
A lot has been said about the role of the Bank of Ghana and also about what was done by Capital Bank shareholders themselves. What do you make of these revelations?
I think Bank of Ghana, good afternoon to your good listeners. I think Bank of Ghana must take full responsibility of the current crisis, at least from your reports, various reports that is coming out. I think Bank of Ghana needs to take full responsibility. I mean, the infractions, the weaknesses, the lapses, and the failure. I think it sums it up. It sums it up that Bank of Ghana must take full responsibility of what has happened to the banking sector.
What should they have done that they did not do?
Well, looking at your report, which is in front of me, if a person is setting up a bank and he hasn't got the capital, how on earth do you allow him to set it and then possibly do financial engineering and support it? And what I even find it a bit unbelievable that you give money to somebody to support emergency liquidity support, then he diverts the money Are they saying that when the monies were diverted, Bank of Ghana didn't see it? It is clear from your report that they have failed woefully, and I think they must take full responsibility. Before we even move into the shareholders, before we move to the directors, I believe from your report, I've seen all your reports and I've had copies of them, and I believe that you've done an excellent job, at least unearthing these malfeasances, financial malfeasances. I think we need to commend Joy for coming out, because all the time when we talk about regulatory failures, I've been talking about it a lot. But you see, what you said, what I have seen, actually validates everything that I have said about the failure of Bank of Ghana.
Right. So, Doc, we want to try and have viewers who may not have the full details of the report have an understanding of it. So you are referring to the fact that these persons went to open a bank and they didn't have enough money to do so, and
exactly.
The Bank of Ghana allowed them to do that. That is not allowed.
It is not allowed.
Okay, and then the Bank of Ghana extended liquidity support to them. They diverted the monies. What is this liquidity support? Why was it illegal?
The liquidity support is that, Bank of Ghana is the lender of last resort, meaning that when we go to clearing, when bank like Capital go to clearing, they are not able to meet the various checks that come from other banks. So in order not to create contingent risk, Bank of Ghana normally give them some credit, some sort of support, so that we won't have a system where a check from a good bank comes to sovereign bank and it cannot be paid. So that is why Bank of Ghana does. It acts as the lender of last resort to support the liquidity system in the banking sector, and that they've been doing it for a long time.
So if I'm to understand you, this is basically money that the Bank of Ghana would give a bank like Capital Bank, so that if someone should take a check there, they would have the money to pay the person.
Exactly, because at the balances they have with Bank of Ghana, they may not have even money in it. But in order to keep the system going, Bank of Ghana will give you a support that we make some funds for you until such a time that you yourself will be able to fund your account with Bank of Ghana.
Now, Capital Bank used these monies to pay off loans, and then the report stated that they round-tripped the money and used it to set up sovereign bank. If they are using it to support their operations, is this allowed or it's not?
If they were using to support their own operations, there wouldn't have been anything wrong about that, because that is what is meant to be, or to what is meant for. But to use a liquidity support again to go and set another bank, to me, there is a criminality there. There's a clear, I'm not a lawyer, but I'll tell you, there is a criminality there. But the problem is that Bank of Ghana should have done certain things we didn't do. Let me tell you, there is what we call mapping of shareholders. Mapping. If they do mapping of shareholders, they would have known that the very same people at the other bank are setting it. But unfortunately, for one of the biggest lapses is that they didn't even do the shareholders mapping, direct loan directors. So that is why I'm calling this a complete regulatory failure, and there are just infractions that has brought about these things in the sector that we experience now.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Richmond Chiahene, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Great. Now, we'll stay with this story because the Christian Council of Ghana, has called on government and the security to arrest and prosecute persons whose actions led to the dissolution of the 7 indigenous banks. The council finds it inappropriate and unacceptable the use of public funds meant for the bailout of banks in distress for individual interest. Speaking as a synod of the Global Evangelical Church at the University of Ghana, General Secretary of the Council, Reverend Cyril Fayose, said only a thorough investigation and prosecution will help restore public confidence in the banking sector.
Saying anything, the bar and all the other organizations are not saying anything. I would like to say here for the record that the Christian Council wants to commend the governor of the Bank of Ghana and his team for exposing the rot in the banking system in Ghana and for actually closing down 7 of the banks. We also want to place on record that the Christian Council of Ghana thinks that all those who are culpable in this matter, be they staff of the Bank of Ghana, or directors of the closed banks should be prosecuted, should face the full rigors of the law as much as possible. Because the amount of money that we hear has gone into this bailing out of these banks is enough to do a lot of social interventions in our country.
Now, the council also called for broader consultation on the yet-to-be-rolled-out double-track system to accommodate huge numbers entering the senior high school next month. According to Reverend Fayose, a pilot of the initiative would have been the ideal approach. He wants governments to listen to opinions and concerns expressed by interest groups.
Disappointed that the president and the regional minister are not here to hear this, but I hope the media will pass it on to them. I want to commend the government for its tireless effort not to leave any child behind. I think that is a good thing, and it must be commended. But in your attempt to do a good thing, it is important that you take everyone along. So the council, the Christian Council, calls on the government to engage all stakeholders, including churches and other faith-based organizations, traditional leaders, parent-teacher organizations, the Ghana Education Service, and the entire nation. I think there is a need for the general public to have opportunity to understand the proposal and to engage the system meaningfully. The council would have wished that the program or the project would have been piloted first before a full-blown implementation. But having not done that, we admonish the public to be objective in such matters of national interest. Our discussion should move towards national interest and the future of the Ghanaian youth. Reverend Chair, the government and its communicators must respect dissenting views coming from any section of the Ghanaian populace and avoid embarking on vindictive attacks on people who express views that do not favor them.
Now, away from that, scores of residents of Krobo and Adangbe towns in Somenya in the eastern region are protesting what they say is a subtle attempt by government to site the main campus of the first public university in that region at Bonso. They claim the present government is going against a previous decision to make Somenya the main campus. The about 8-kilometer protest seeks to compel government to rescind its decision and stick to previous agreements. Joshua Ogbojo is secretary to United Krobo Foundation, organizers of the protest.
We are just doing the peaceful demonstration. We don't want any faction. After we are saying that, we need our university.
Apologies, we are unable to bring you that sound. Now let's get onto the phone line and speak with regional correspondent Kofi Siao for more. Kofi, give us some background into today's demonstration. Right, Kofi, if you can hear me, we just want to get some background on today's demonstration.
Okay, you know, government sometimes, some 2 years ago or so, the previous government, they decided to cite the public university, the proposed public university for the eastern region in Somenya. So they started some work at the place where the university campus, the main campus, will be taking place. But this present government came and decided that he put up a satellite campus at Buntu in the eastern region, the same region. And the people of Somenya and the Krobo community are really complaining. They're claiming that government has decided to make Bunsu the main campus at the expense of so many. So today they decided to demonstrate against that decision. That is their claim, though. So let me speak to Bernard Yaobi, who is one of the leaders of the demonstrators. Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
Okay, so what has been your concern?
Very well. Our main concern is that the University of Environment and Sustainable Development, that at 898, Section 3, specify clearly that it should be Somanya, the major campus is Somanya, and the whole room, and any other place where the council may determine. We know that there's no university, so why finance committee report can overturn this act? President has been able, Nana Akufo-Addo has appointed education minister, finance minister, and then finance committee in parliament. They are going to sit down, receiving that loan, $90 million from Exim Bank, and that they went to parliament to pass that bill, that report.
Okay, so we want to know why you are saying or claiming that government wants to make Bunsu the main campus. That is very
well. We know that we've seen documents in the finance committee report. Namely, 11 projects are going to Bunsu. One, the main administrative block, School of Agriculture, under each lecture house, laboratories, faculty offices, seminar rooms. 3, School of Engineering, under each we have lecture house, faculty offices, multimedia laboratories. 4, shared laboratories. 5 census residents. 20 residents for professors. 24 residents for senior lecturers. 46 residents for other staff. Auditorium, library, any 216 hotels. All these things are going to Bunsu. So if all these are going to Bunsu, where is the major campus in Somanya? This is why today, we, the proposal that done with, hit the ground. This is a small thing. It's not going to be the one-day wonder. We will go back again.
Okay.
We're giving the president the petition. And 14 days, clear days.
Right.
To rescind that decision now. President should rescind that decision now. Again, President should rescind that decision now. It's not an order, but we are pleading on his behalf.
Okay.
The listening father. So he should do this to us and we'll be free.
Okay. Okay, so you
Right,
heard
Kofi.
one of the conveners, Bernard Yaobi, there in the interview.
Right, thank you very much, Kofi, for joining us with that report. Kofi Siao is our man in the Eastern region. You're still watching Joy News today. Stories gone by so far. More revelations emerge suggesting that the central bank allowed the establishment of Capital Bank without proof of the required capital to operate. We brought you some details of how that happened, as the Christian Council has called for the arrest and prosecution of persons whose actions led to the dissolution of the 7 indigenous banks. Also just gone by, scores of residents of Somenya demonstrate against what they perceive as an attempt by governments to site the first public university in the eastern region at Bunsu. A move they say is contrary to an earlier decision to locate the campus in Somenya. And still to come later on Tech Thursday, we will tell you about that future possibility of sourcing renewable energy from wastewater. Kwesi Deborah tells us more about this technology. Don't forget, there's also business, sports, international, and showbiz updates in this bulletin. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Now, the Greater Accra Chairman of the opposition National Democratic Congress, NDC, says the party is investigating branch executives who have declared support for persons seeking to lead the NDC in the 2020 elections. Joseph Adekoka says it is wrong to engage in such an act. His comments come on the back of some Greater Accra branch executives declaring support for Ecos Yogabra. Speaking on the AM show, Mr. Adekoka said these executives will be punished if they are found to have broken the party's election rules.
There's nothing called branch executives committee or whatever it is. So I'm at a loss where these people are coming from because the branches, we've just did reorganization, we just elected branch officials, and the party is focused on ensuring the branches become effective and to concentrate on mobilizing the grassroots, the foot soldiers at the branch level. So I'm at a loss. I was just reading this last night and this morning, and this gentlemen who have constituted themselves into a branch executive committee or something, and I think it's not a structure in the party. It's not a structure in the party. So I'm at a loss. You see, only last week, when nominations was open for the flag bearership, the national general secretary of the party, Honorable Asenu Nkete, made a statement that individuals can pledge their support to candidates, but collectively, executives collectively cannot do that.
This is interesting.
So this frowns on the directives that the General Secretary made at the beginning. So we are yet to find out. We are going to call the executives to the region and find out upon what authority, upon what mandate that they have, that they were able to do that. We must respect party structures. You see, and we must respect discipline. We are trying to reorganize the party to forge unity so that we can prosecute the 2020 agenda with a common purpose. And if we start doing these kind of things, as the party has prescribed or the party has indicated that we shouldn't do, immediately we leave ourselves to a situation where at the end of the exercise, there's polarization. And we don't want this to happen. That is why we are saying individually you can pledge your support, but collectively you should really be circumspect in this. So I think I will personally call on Spio Gabra, right, to disassociate himself from this statement, because I know he believes he believes in the rule of law. He believes in the party structures. He believes in the tenets of the party's constitution, right? So he should really disassociate himself from this.
That's an
Now, it will soon be possible to add wastewater to Ghana's renewable energy sources thanks to a partition developed at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. This partition, made from clay from infancy in the Ashanti region, ensures power generation from wastewater. On Tech Thursday, Love FM's Kwesi Debra speaks with inventor Dr. Ruben Yao Tamaklo of the Department of Physics.
Ghana's energy needs increases every year as fuel cost and gadget acquisition soar. Many parts of the world are shifting to fuel cells because of the exhaustion of fossil fuel resources.
For electricity to work, there must be a flow of charges from one side of maybe a cell to the other side. So, what are these materials that produce these charges? That is the beginning of electricity. So, as it is, you can see we have this hydropower, the generator, diesel, petrol, and all that. So we try to find out how can we use natural resources to make these charges flow from one side of a cell to the other.
Energy generated from bacterial activity, also known as microbial fuel cells or MFCs, started in the early 20th century, are being explored. MFCs are devices that use bacteria to break down the dirt in the wastewater to generate electric power and at the same time clean the water.
So all these studies went on till it came to 1911 when Potter discovered that there's some microorganism in dirty water which consume the dirt in the water to produce what we call the hydrogen or proton.
In May 2007, the University of Queensland, Australia, completed a prototype of the microbial fuel cells using Bree wastewater, and they were able to produce carbon dioxide, water, and electricity. These devices are capable of producing sustainable, renewable energy.
The microbial fuel cell consists of two chambers. the left compartment containing the wastewater and the right chamber containing hydrogen peroxide, or what is locally known as hydrogen, separated by a partition. As the bacteria in the wastewater break down the dirt, electrical charges in the form of hydrogen ions are released. The hydrogen combines with oxygen, the peroxide, to form water. The movement of the hydrogen through the partition results in the production of electricity. But for a long time, these partitions, known as proton exchange membrane or PERM, were imported, costing hundreds of dollars, and besides require a certain level of expertise to operate.
It is, you have to, as if I want to use it, I don't have to hold it with my hand. Yeah, I have to use the prong or tongue to hold it, so that no dirt. I have to soak it for some time with sulfuric acid and all that.
Dr. Tamaklo and his team set out in 2013 to investigate cheaper and manageable alternatives to this partition. The clay from infancy was therefore found to possess special properties which, in combination with a substance known as zeolite, could achieve the same purpose. Interestingly, the new partition, which is 200 times cheaper, has an edge over the imported ones.
The produced was 0.85 volts. But with this clay, we're able to get 1.5 volts.
Presently, Dr. Tamaklo has been powering his gadgets with the device, but hopes to collaborate with industry to mold it to a better form. Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
Let's make way for business now, and Sandra Esnamafenu is standing by.